The world dissolved into a razor's edge of pain, a vicious cramp seizing my abdomen so violently it buckled my knees. I gasped, the sound swallowed by the plush carpet of the restaurant hallway as I crumpled to the floor. Through the polished wood of the door beside me, I could hear his voice, and Eurostrade's voice, slick with the same casual cruelty that had defined our entire existence. "Me and Berg," he was saying, his words punctuated by the laughter of his friends. "No way. Even if he was on his knees begging, I wouldn't go there. Kid or no kid, I'm not signing up for that." Each word was a fresh blade twisting in my gut, sharper than the physical agony that had me pinned to the ground. Kid or no kid. He had no idea. He had no idea the words were a death sentence to a hope I hadn't even let myself acknowledge. And as the door swung open and his laughter died in his throat at the sight of me, all I could think was that my world hadn't just turned upside down. It had been shattered into a million irreparable pieces. My reality had fractured 3 weeks earlier, under the sterile hum of fluorescent lights in Dr. Larsson Eurostrade's office. I was gripping the armrests of a sterile, uncomfortable chair, convinced they were the only things anchoring me to a planet that had suddenly tilted off its axis. The air, thick with a scent of antiseptic and unspoken dread, felt heavy in my lungs. Dr. Larsson, a man whose placid demeanor and silvering hair were usually a comfort, had just detonated a bomb in the center of my meticulously coded life. The fallout was a single, impossible word: pregnant. Me, Berg, a man who, last I checked, was anatomically incompatible with the entire concept. I stared at him, my brain cycling through error messages, searching for the punchline, the glitch in the matrix. But his face remained a mask of serene professionalism. "Pregnant," I managed to croak, my voice splintering, betraying a vulnerability I hadn't felt in years. "Doc, with all due respect, either you are Eurostrade V finally lost your marbles, or the fundamental laws of biology have ceased to apply. Men don't Euros gestate. Eurostrade am missing some rather critical hardware for that." Dr. Larsson simply adjusted his glasses, his calm unshaken, as if he were patiently explaining a complex algorithm to a novice. "Eurostrade's exceptionally rare, Berg, but not impossible," he began, his voice even. "Your medical history shows your mother was expecting fraternal twins. One fetus, your twin, did not develop past the early stages. However, it seems a remnant of that development, a small but functional uterus, was absorbed into your own body. Eurostrade's been dormant your entire life, completely hidden, until a recent, significant hormonal fluctuation seems to have your Euros activated it." My mind felt like it was buffering a file too large to process. A uterus, a secret, stowaway organ had been living inside me, rent-free, for my entire life. "You are Eurostrade retelling meet Eurostrade V been walking around with our Euros a biological Easter egg this whole time?" The question sounded absurd even as it left my lips. "Precisely," he confirmed, nodding as if this were as mundane as discussing the common cold. Eurostrade's significantly smaller than a typical female uterus, nestled in a way that it evaded all previous scans and examinations. The pregnancy is in its very early stages, but I must be clear, the risks involved are substantial. You need to have a serious discussion with the father. Soon. The father. The word landed like a physical blow, and my stomach lurched with a nausea that had nothing to do with hormones or phantom organs. Andy, my nemesis, my shadow, the infuriatingly brilliant thorn in my side since we were teenagers. The man who, 2 months ago, after a bitter argument over a business deal, had engaged me in a whiskey-fueled battle of wills at a dimly lit bar. A battle that had somehow ended with us tangled in the sheets of our hotel room. The details were a hazy, regrettable blur of poor judgment and potent liquor. And now this, the ultimate, catastrophic consequence. I gripped the chair so hard my knuckles turned white. "Discuss it with him," I muttered, the words tasting like ash. I would rather spend the rest of my life debugging a million lines of spaghetti code written in a dead language. A flicker of something, maybe amusement, crossed Dr. Larsona Eurostrade's face, but he maintained his professional composure. "I understand this is a profound shock. Take a day or two to process, but do not delay the conversation for too long. Your condition requires careful management." He slid a medical report across the polished desk, a terrifying landscape of jargon and figures I had no desire to comprehend. I didn't offer thanks. I simply rose on unsteady legs and stumbled out of his office, out of the hospital, and collapsed onto a bench in the chaotic symphony of the city. The world rushed around me, the blare of horns, the chatter of pedestrians, but I was trapped in a silent, glitching simulation. My pocket buzzed, a vibration against my thigh that felt like an electric shock. I pulled out my phone, and for a moment, I seriously considered hurling it into traffic. Of course, it was Andy. The universe, it seemed, was a comedian with a deeply sadistic sense of humor. I answered, my voice dripping with a venom I didn't try to conceal. "Andy, you absolute, gold-plated jackass. I swear to God, the day you walked into my life was the single greatest mistake of my existence." There was a beat of silence on the other end, then his voice, that infuriatingly smooth, confident drawl. "Whoa, Berg. Farter Eurostrade's a new record, even for you. What did I do this time? I was just calling to see if you are Eurostrade re-heading to the Civic Corp tender meeting tomorrow." "That is none of your damn business," I snapped, my pulse hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I couldn't tell him. Not like this. Maybe not ever. "Just do me a favor and stay the hell out of my way." I ended the call before he could utter another word, my hand shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I sent a terse text to my assistant, Lisa, asking for a ride. I had to escape. I had to get away from this waking nightmare. As I waited, the years of my rivalry with Andy replayed in my mind like a corrupted video file. It had ignited in the sterile halls of high school. He Eurostrade transferred in during our junior year, a whirlwind of easy charm and infuriating confidence, effortlessly dethroning me as the top student. At the time, I was still navigating the raw, hollow grief of losing my parents in a car crash, using academics as a shield, a fortress of logic and reason to keep the world at bay. Then Andy arrived, a walking, talking disruption to my carefully ordered universe. He aced every test, won every debate, and turned my solitary focus into a relentless competition. He Eurostrade claim first in mathematics. I Eurostrade claw it back in physics. I Eurostrade dominate a coding competition. He Eurostrade mesmerize the judges in a public speaking event. We were a binary star system, locked in a gravitational pull of mutual antagonism. Our teachers called it a spirited feud. We knew it was war. College was an exercise in cosmic cruelty. We landed at the same university, in the same damn computer science program. The campus forums had a running poll hottest rivals. It was as ridiculous as it was inescapable. After graduation, I poured my grief and ambition into co-founding Start Tech with my best friend, Will. We built it from the ground up, a garage startup that blossomed into a team of 100 in 2 short years. And then, 6 months ago, like a perfectly engineered piece of malware, and a Eurostrade-esque company, Sky Corp, emerged. They targeted our market, our clients, our entire business model. The war had escalated. We were no longer fighting for grades, we were fighting for survival, clashing over contracts and poaching each other. Eurostrade's top talent. The Civic Corp tender was the latest battlefield, a massive, game-changing project that could secure Start Tech or Eurostrade's future. For Andy, it was just another jewel for his crown. That night at the bar 2 months ago, euros that had been my brilliant idea. Get him drunk, Eurostrade thought. Use his arrogance against him, convince him to back off the tender. Instead, we Eurostrade both gotten obliterated. And now, impossibly, I was pregnant. Lissar Eurostrade's sedan pulled up to the curb, and I slid inside, the leather cool against my clammy skin. Home, please, I mumbled. She shot me a concerned look in the rearview mirror but, thankfully, said nothing. The drive was a silent blur, my mind a storm of disbelief and rising panic. A baby. Andy Eurostrade's baby. How in the hell was I supposed to navigate this? Back in the sanctuary of my apartment, the sprawling city skyline visible through my floor-to-ceiling windows seemed to mock my confinement. I paced like a caged animal until Will burst in, his usual boisterous energy filling the space. Dude, where have you been? Lisa said you were at the hospital. Eurostrade am drowning in paperwork over here while you are Eurostrade off doing what? Getting a spa day. I handed him a glass of water, my hand unsteady. He finally noticed my pallor, his boisterousness deflating, replaced by a furrow of concern. Berg, you look like you are Eurostrade seen a ghost. Is it that stomach bug again? I shook my head, my throat closing up. Eurostrade am pregnant. Will choked, spraying a fine mist of water all over my expensive designer couch. Were Eurostrade rear euros what? Pregnant, as in, with child, bun in the oven, pregnant. He coughed so violently I thought he might pass out. I calmly handed him a napkin. I had anticipated this. Eater Eurostrade's real, I said, my voice flat as I tossed him the medical report. Some kind of 1 in a billion medical anomaly. I have a uterus. Ander euros, yes. Eater Eurostrade's Ander Eurostrade's. Will a Eurostrade's jaw hit the floor as he scanned the report, his eyes growing wider with every line. Hollier euros, Andy? That smug son of a bitch. What did he do to you? I cut him off before he could work himself into a full-blown rage. It wasn't a Eurostrade like that. We were both drunk. It was a stupid, mutual mistake. We agreed to pretend it never happened. Willer Eurostrade's face flushed a deep, angry red. Pretend. He knocks you up and gets to just walk away. Eurostrade am going to kill him. He was already halfway to the door, a man on a mission, before I managed to grab his arm and physically drag him back. Will, calm down. I haven't Eurostrade even decided what Eurostrade am going to do yet. He glared, but he sat. You are telling him, right? This is his mess, too. I sighed, my head throbbing with a dull, persistent ache. I don't Eurostrade know. I need to think. He grumbled, but then shifted, his business brain taking over. Fine, but we have a more immediate problem. The Civic Corp tender is tomorrow. My sources say either Eurostrade's down to us or Sky Corp. You have to be there. I nodded. though the thought of facing Andy now made my stomach churn with a new kind of sickness. Yeah, Ire Eurostrade LLB there. Will eyed me, his skepticism plain. You sure? You look like you are Eurostrade one bad smell away from redecorating the carpet. Gee, thanks for the vote of confidence, I depend. Ire Eurostrade LL manage. He left, still muttering threats against Andy Eurostrade's anatomy. I sank onto the couch, the silence of the apartment pressing in on me. Tomorrow I would have to stand in a room with Andy and pretend that the world hadn't fundamentally broken. But nothing was normal. Nothing would ever be normal again. The next day, I stood in the buzzing conference room of Civic Corp, clutching our meticulously prepared proposal like a shield. The air was thick with the scent of ambition and expensive cologne. And then I saw him, Andy, holding caught in the center of the room, a peacock in a perfectly tailored suit, dazzling a circle of executives with that infuriatingly easy charm. A full 90% of his success was that silver tongue, and I hated it. I found a quiet corner, trying to make myself invisible, but my stomach was performing a series of acrobatic flips. I told myself it was just nerves. It had to be. A particularly sleazy potential client, a Mr. Walsh, cornered me, his whiskey glass sloshing dangerously. Bork, long time. Let me buy you a drink. He reeked of alcohol and desperation. I forced a smile, holding up my glass of orange juice. On the wagon, Walsh. Dr. Eurostrade's orders. The lie came easily, but the smell of his drink made my stomach clench. He let out a booming laugh. What, a little guy like you Carner Eurostrade tea handle his liquor? Dona Eurostrade tea bead a lightweight. Before I could formulate a polite escape, a smooth voice cut in. Walsh, my man, if you are Eurostrade looking for a drinking partner, you are Eurostrade V found him. Let her Eurostrade's talk about that new project of yours. It was Andy, swooping in with a politician's grace. He steered the oblivious Walsh away, but not before shooting me a quick, unreadable glance over his shoulder. I gritted my teeth. He had just saved me, and the fact that I owed him anything, even something so small, felt like swallowing glass. The tender meeting began. And as Willa Eurostrade's Intel had predicted, the CEO announced that Start Tech and Sky Corp were the two finalists. We were given 1 week to submit a final, comprehensive plan. A final showdown. I was gathering my notes, eager to get back to the office and strategize, when Andy cornered me by the door. Hey, Berg. Eater Eurostrade's still early. Letter Eurostrade's grab dinner. His grin was disarmingly casual, as if we were old friends. Unlike you, Andy, some of us have to work for a living, I scoffed, my tone sharper than I intended. And then it hit me. His cologne, that specific, expensive scent he always wore. It wasn't Eurostrade tea just a smelt, it was an assault. My stomach rebelled violently. A gag reflex took over, and I barely had time to cover my mouth before I bolted, shoving past a stunned Andy and making a desperate dash for the Mina Eurostrade's room. I collapsed into a stall, dry heaving, tears of frustration and nausea stinging my eyes. My body was betraying me in the most humiliating way possible. After a few minutes, I stumbled to the sink, splashing cold water on my face, deliberately avoiding my own reflection. A soft knock came from the main door. Berg, you okay in there? And Eurostrade's voice, stripped of its usual bravado, sounded Euro's concerned. I took a deep breath, wiped my face with a paper towel and stepped out. He was standing there, holding out a clean handkerchief. Wari Euros trade re standing too close, I muttered, my voice hoarse. Your cologne, Eater Euros trade Sard Euros overwhelming. He blinked, then immediately took a step back, a look of genuine confusion on his face. Oh, sorry. Are you sick or something? Do you need a doctor? My patience, already worn thin, snapped. Just leave me alone, Andy. I brushed past him, but his worried frown lingered in my mind. In the hallway, Willie Euros trade's words echoed in my head. This is his mess, too. I stopped. I turned back. Andy, wait. He stopped, surprise flickering in his eyes. Yeah, my voice was steady, even if my heart was hammering against my ribs. Saturday, 2 Euros trade clock. The moonlight room. We need to talk. I didn't Euros trade wait for his answer. I just walked away, the weight of the unspoken truth a heavy burden on my shoulders. The tender could wait. First, I had to figure out how to tell my greatest enemy that we were about to be bound together in the most intimate, terrifying way imaginable. Chaos churned in my chest as I pushed open the door to the moonlight room, a sleek, dimly lit restaurant that whispered of expensive secrets. Dr. Larsona Euros trade's report was a heavy, damning presence in my briefcase. My palms were slick with sweat. Euros trade rehearsed the words 100 times, but every version felt like a line of code destined to crash the entire system. I was early, my nerves a jangling mess, and I headed towards the private room Euros trade reserved. As I neared room 208, a wave of loud, careless laughter washed out from the adjacent room 207. I slowed my pace, and then I heard my name. Berg, come on. The guy has nothing on Andy, Amarna Euros trade's voice boasted. Looks, Charmer Euros Andy is in a completely different league. Another voice, a woman Euros trade's, chimed in. Totally. Berg is so stiff and serious. Eater Euros trade's like he Euros trade's allergic to having fun. The latter swelled and my stomach twisted into a knot. But it was Andy Euros trade's voice that stopped my heart. You guys are ridiculous, he said, a laugh still in his tone. Me and Berg? No way. Even if he was on his knees begging, I wouldn't Euros trade go there. Kid or no kid, I'm not signing up for that. The room erupted. The sound was deafening. My breath caught in my throat, a sharp, painful gasp. His words weren't just an insult, they were a complete and utter negation of the reality I was living. I clutched my briefcase, the report inside crinkling beneath my fingers, and then the world dissolved into pain. The vicious cramp dropped me to my knees. I pressed a hand to my stomach, a cold sweat breaking out across my forehead. A passing server saw me, her eyes widening in alarm. Sir, are you all right? But before she could reach me, the door to 207 swung open. Andy stepped out, his smile faltering and then vanishing completely as he saw me crumpled on the floor. Berg, his voice, stripped of all its earlier cockiness, was laced with panic. He was at my side in an instant. What are Euros trade's wrong? What happened? I gritted my teeth against another wave of pain. Get me Euros to 208, I managed to choke out, grabbing his sleeve. He didn't ask questions. He scooped me up into his arms, Euros arms that were surprisingly stronger Euros, and carried me into the private room, setting me down gently on a cushioned chair. His face was a mask of worry. Is it your stomach again? Should I call an ambulance? He was pacing, phone in hand. No, I whispered, catching my breath. Call Will. I rattled off the number, and he dialed, holding the phone to my ear as I leaned back, exhausted. Will answered with a roar. Andy, you slimy son of our Euros, Will, eater Euros trade s me, I cut in, wincing. Moonlight Room 208. Something der Euros trade s wrong. Hurry. Will a Euros trade s anger evaporated, replaced by pure alarm. On my way. Hang on. Andy ended the call and knelt beside me. You are Euros trade re-scaring me, Berg. Seriously, what is going on? There was no mockery in his voice now, only a raw concern that was deeply unsettling. He brought me a glass of water and a warm, damp towel, dabbing gently at my forehead. I wanted to scream at him, to throw his cruel words back in his face, but I was too drained. His kindness felt like a betrayal, a confusing counterpoint to the man our Euros trade D just overheard. The door burst open, and Will stormed in, his face a thundercloud of fury and fear. He saw Andy hovering over me and his eyes narrowed. You bastard! He roared, and before I could react, he swung. His fist connected with Andy Euros trade's jaw with a sickening crack, sending him stumbling backward. Will, stop! I shouted, struggling to sit up. Eater Euros trade's Nota Euros just get me to a hospital. Will a Euros trade's rage receded, replaced by worry for me. He shot Andy one last murderous glare before helping me to my feet. Andy, rubbing his jaw, looked utterly shell-shocked. Berg, our Euros save it, I snapped, my voice ice cold. We Euros trade redone here. As Will helped me out, Andy tried to follow. Boyer Hospital. Our Euros trade LL call head. Tell them you are Euros trade recoming. Will scoffed. We don't a Euros trade T need your favors, you piece of trash. I didn't a Euros trade T look back, but I could feel his stunned silence burning into my back all the way to the car. At Boyer Hospital, Dr. Larsona Euros trade's calm presence was a lifeline in the chaos. A stress-induced reaction, he explained after a series of tests, likely brought on by severe emotional strain. You and the baby are stable, but you need to be admitted for observation, at least 2 days. I nodded, a wave of bone-deep exhaustion washing over me. After the doctor left, Will sat beside me, his expression grim. This was Andy Euros trade's fault, wasn't Euros trade T it? What did he say to you? I stared at the sterile ceiling tiles. Nothing, I lied. Just bad timing. I couldn't bring myself to repeat the words, to give them more power. I was done with him. He didn't Euros trade T deserve to know the truth. He didn't Euros trade T deserve to be a father. Will sighed, squeezing my shoulder. Get some sleep. We Euros trade LL figured this out. He left, and the silence of the room was absolute. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You okay? Which hospital? Andy. His voice echoed in my head. Kid or no kid, I wouldn't Euros trade T go there. My thumb hovered over the screen, then I pressed down hard, blocking the number. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it alone. This was my child now, not his. Lying in that sterile hospital bed, I made a decision. This baby, this tiny, impossible life growing inside me, was the only family I had left. I was keeping it. And Andy, with his casual cruelty and careless words, would have no part in it. The day after I was discharged, I was dragged to a client dinner by Will. I brought along Tom, a department manager, as my designated drinker. The night ended with me hauling a completely plastered Tom out of the restaurant and into the cool night air, and thought Euros trade's when I saw him. Andy. He was leaning against a wall with a petite, smiling woman on his arm. Well, Berg, he drawled, his eyes raking over my disheveled state and the slumped form of my colleague. Looks like your clean freak days are over. Picking up drunks in back alleys now, heading to a hotel. The sneer in his voice was unmistakable. Heat flooded my face. My life is none of your business, Andy. The woman tugged his arm. Andy, don't a Euros trade be a jerk. She's offered me a dimpled smile. Euros trade Lily. Eater Euros trade nice to meet you. Andy smirked, pulling her closer. My girlfriend, he announced, his eyes locked on mine. Bet you didn't Euros trade see that coming. Always one step ahead. A tired, familiar ache spread through my chest. Of course he had a normal life, a pretty girlfriend, a future that didn't Euros trade involve a freak medical condition. I was the anomaly, the one destined to ruin everything. Congratulations, I managed to mutter. You win. The next morning, I was at Boyer for a follow-up. Dr. Larson was grim. Your vitals are unstable, Berg. The fetus is healthy, but small. We Euros trade repassed the safest window for termination. A surgical procedure now would carry significant risks. The world tilted. And if I keep it, high risk, he said bluntly, but manageable with extreme care and zero stress. I left his office in a daze, clutching the new report, my mind spinning. I was so lost in thought I physically collided with someone in the hallway, my papers scattering across the polished floor. As I knelt to gather them, a hand picked one up. Early stage pregnancy, a voice read aloud. Andy Euros trade voice, sharp with disbelief. I snatched the paper from his hand, my face burning. Mind your own damn business. He sneered, his gaze dripping with contempt. Wow, Berg. Out with a drunk one night, knocking up some poor woman the next. You move fast. My vision went red. The cruelty at the restaurant, the girlfriend, Thesa Euros, it all collided. Without thinking, my hand swung out, the crack of my palm against his cheek echoing in the silent corridor. He staggered back, a hand to his face, his eyes wide with shock. Tears I hadn't realized I was holding back streamed down my face. You are the worst person I have ever known, I choked out, shoving past his stunned form and bolting for the exit. I was done. In the back of a cab, I called Will. Euros trade leaving the country. For a week, maybe two. Handle start tech. Berg, what happened? He asked, his voice laced with alarm. I just need a break, I whispered, my voice breaking. Please. He didn't Euros trade push. Alright, man. Go clear your head. I hung up and booked the first flight I could find. Andy could have his perfect life. I didn't Euros trade need him. This baby and we would be fine on our own. A week later, I was back, dragging my suitcase down the hallway to my apartment, feeling marginally more human. And then I froze. He was there, Andy, leaning against my door, a faint bruise still visible on his jaw where Will had punched him. He looked at Euros exhausted. He straightened up as he saw me, dropping an unlit cigarette to the floor. Berg, he said, his voice hesitant. Can we talk? A cryptic text from Will yesterday suddenly made sense. Did something dumb. Dona Euros trade hate me. Will had sold me out. I sighed, the fight draining out of me. Fine. Inside, he sat stiffly on my couch while I poured 2 glasses of water, keeping a safe distance between us. I know Euros trade been an ass, he started, the words tumbling out. What I said at the Hospitaler Euros, I was out of line. Euros trade sorry. I crossed my arms. You think? He winced. Euros I talked to Will. He told me everything. The floor dropped out from under me. He had no right. He was worried about you. Andy leaned forward, his eyes earnest. He said you were thinking about euros getting rid of it. Berg, I talked to doctors. A termination at this stage of euros trade is incredibly dangerous. You could be seriously hurt. I can't euros trade to let you take that risk. I let out a bitter, humorless laugh. Let me? You don't euros trade to get a vote, Andy. You made your position perfectly clear at the Moonlight Room. A circumflex euros kid or no kid. I euros trade am not signing up for that. A circumflex euros trade, does that ring a bell? His face crumpled. I was running my mouth. I didn't mean it. I was scared, okay? Scared over euros this. Of you. I didn't euros trade to know it was real. Scared. I snapped, the anger returning. Try being the one whose body has been hijacked. Try hearing the person responsible for it laughing it off like eater euros trade as a joke. My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated myself for it. He stood and moved closer, kneeling by my chair. His voice was quiet, stripped of all its usual arrogance. I am an idiot. I know that. But I euros trade am here now. I want to help. I euros trade V been researching. There are specialists, people who have dealt with cases like yours. We can get you through this safely. Let me be a part of it. I stared at him, at the genuine fear and desperation in his eyes. Why should I believe you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You have Lily, your perfect life. Why would you want to get involved in this mess? He looked confused. Lily, she euros trade is not my girlfriend. That was a setup by my mother. I lied. I said that just to get under your skin. He looked sheepish. I don't euros trade to want that life, Berg. The wife, the picket fencer euros eater euros trade is not me. The pieces started to shift in my mind. So what is you? What are euros trade as your deal? He met my gaze, his own unwavering. I don't euros trade to know, but I know I euros trade am not walking away from this. From you. The sincerity in his voice chipped away at the wall I euros trade built around myself. I euros trade am keeping the baby, I said, my voice firm. Farter euros trade is my choice, but I don't euros trade to need you to play the hero. You are euros trade re not fine, he insisted. Will told me you are euros trade read a wreck. I euros trade am not leaving you to do this alone. For the baby euros and for you. My throat felt tight. I wanted to fight, to push him away, but I was so tired. Fine, I muttered, but no promises. And stay out of my personal space. A small, relieved smile touched his lips. Deal. I euros trade LL start by not being a complete jerk. How are euros trade s that for a low bar? I snorted, a ghost of a laugh escaping against my will. For the first time in a decade, we weren't at war. It was fragile and strange, but as he left, I placed a hand on my stomach. Maybe, just maybe, I didn't euros trade to have to do this completely alone. Weeks later, my apartment had been completely colonized by Andy. His protein powders crowded my refrigerator shelves. His yoga mat was a permanent fixture in my living room, and a small mountain of parenting books was growing on my coffee table. At 6 months pregnant, I was just beginning to show, and Andy had morphed into a hyper-vigilant, infuriatingly domestic caretaker. It was bizarre, and yet euros I couldn't deny it was working. This morning, he was in my kitchen, wearing one of my aprons, expertly flipping blueberry pancakes. You have to eat, Berg, he said, sliding a plate in front of me. The kid needs the antioxidants. You are insufferable, I grumbled, but I took a bite. It was delicious. He had taken over everything, the euros, the cooking, the cleaning, driving me to every single doctor's appointment. He was there with a glass of water and a bad joke when morning sickness hit. His relentless, disarming kindness was slowly eroding my defenses. War euros strayed re-staring, he said, catching me looking at him. Finally falling for my culinary charms. I snorted. In your dreams. Our euros trade just shocked you haven't euros trade T managed to burn the place down yet. He laughed, a real, easy sound that no longer set my teeth on edge. The constant care began to feel euros normal. I was gaining weight, I had more energy, and Dr. Larson was pleased. But I was getting restless. Andy, ever observant, noticed. We need a vacation, he announced one evening. An island, sunshine, sea air, no stress for the baby. I sighed. Fine, but if you try to pack me a Tupperware of healthy snacks, our euros trade throwing it in the ocean. The island was paradise. We walked along the shore, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Andy was different here, quieter, the sharp edges of his personality softened by the sea breeze. You like it? He asked, his gaze on the horizon. Eater euros trade sar euros peaceful, I admitted. He smiled, a genuine, unguarded expression that made my chest feel tight. I wasn't euros trade tea ready to analyze what that feeling meant. Later that evening, a sudden storm rolled in, the sky turning a bruised purple. Andy had gone out to get supplies when I saw Eater euros, a small child, no older than 6, standing at the edge of the churning water, clutching a red floaty. The tide was coming in fast, and he was crying, utterly alone. A primal, protective instinct I didn't know I possessed took over. I didn't think. I ran. The wind nearly knocked me off my feet, but I reached the boy, grabbing his small hand. Just as I did, a massive wave crashed over us, dragging us both into the violent surf. I kicked frantically, one arm wrapped around the sputtering child, but the current was a monster. My lungs burned. My strength was failing. Our euros trade pregnant. The thought screamed through my panic. What have I done? And then, a strong arm circled my waist. Andy. His face was a mask of grim determination as he fought against the tide, pulling us both toward the shore. We collapsed on the sand, the boy euros trade's terrified parents rushing to us with sobs of gratitude. I was shaking, soaked to the bone, but Andy was already hauling me back towards the hotel, his jaw set in a hard line. Inside our room, he was terrifyingly silent. He wrapped me in a thick towel and started running a hot bath, his hands trembling slightly. Get in, he ordered, his voice low and tight. War euros trade refreezing. When I was submerged in the steaming water, he stood by the window, his back to me, watching the storm rage outside. Thanks, I said quietly once I was out and dressed. For euros saving me. He didn't turn around. You could have died, Berg, he said, and his voice cracked. You, and the baby. I realized then that he wasn't euros trade just angry. He was terrified. Our euros trade fine, I said softly. The baby euros trade's fine. He finally turned to face me, and his eyes were blazing with a raw, unfamiliar emotion. Fine. You call that fine? You jumped into a storm surge. What the hell were you thinking? There was a child, Andy. I couldn't euros trade just stand there. You are euros trade not a lifeguard, Berg. You are euros trade rear euros you are euros trade pregnant. He roared, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. For once in your stubborn, reckless life, can you not think about the fact that you are Eurostrade not just responsible for yourself anymore? The force of his fear hit me harder than the waves had. He wasn't Eurostrade my rival yelling at me. He was the father of my child, terrified of losing us both. The unspoken truth of his terror hung in the air between us, more powerful than any argument we Eurostrade ever had. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one that had just broken inside this room. He saved my life and the life of our child, but the look in his eyes wasn't Eurostrade just relief. It was a terrifying mix of fury and fear. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one about to break between us, and for the first time, I realized this was about so much more than just a baby. This was about us. Do you think Andy's fear is justified, or is he overreacting? And how do you think this terrifying event will change their relationship for good? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're hooked on this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for the next chapter. You won't want to miss what happens next.